Hello, welcome to this lecture video. So I'm teacher Melai and let's talk about graphs and charts. So our lesson is still in data management wherein our focus now is still the first bulleted topic, data. Particularly, we will be discussing graphs and charts as well as interpreting organized data. So in the previous video, we presented how to come up or to make a frequency count and percent distribution. So in this video, we are going to use Microsoft Excel for us to come up with appropriate chart for our data. So let us move to the next slide. So if you still remember, we have our discussions of a review of the level of measurements. So we have the different levels or scales of measurements, the nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. So just to recall again, so if it is nominal, example for nominal is sex. It's a categorical variable wherein there is no rank, which means there's no higher or there's no lower. If you're going to claim, for example, that in terms of sex, there are more male than female, then the variable is not sex, but number of male and number of female respondents. So for nominal, we stick to categorical variable, and that categorical variable, the example is sex, or it can also be civil status, so as single or as married, relationship status, in a relationship or not in a relationship. Okay, now let's move on to ordinal data. So for ordinal data, this is also a categorical variable. However, it order now matters. So which means that, for example, in performance level, of course, we know that in performance level, there is a ranking. So for example, we have the poor, good, average, or rather poor, good, very good, superior. So we know, of course, that poor is the lowest order, or it can be arranged into order from lowest performance to highest performance. Or another example is skin tone. So for the skin tone, for instance, we have light skin tone, fair skin tone, dark skin tone, wherein we can arrange it from dark to lightest and lightest to dark. Or if you're going to claim that it sounds like uh, we are discriminating, well, for a nominal data like skin color, black, white, brown, so there is no higher or there is no lower. So if we're talking about skin color, that's the one that is nominal. While if it is a skin tone, since we can arrange it from lowest to highest, or rather from light to dark, dark to light, then it is considered as ordinal. Now let's move on interval and ratio. So for interval and ratio, these variables are both quantitative variables, which means it's a numerical valued. So it involves numbers. For interval variable, there is no absolute zero, which means that if it is zero, it means there is still measurement. So example is score. The score is zero. So we cannot claim that there is no score because there is a score, but the score is zero, or the temperature is 0 degree Celsius. So there is still temperature. So example for interval is temperature. While for ratio, an example for ratio is speed. The speed of a car is 0 meter per second, which means that there's no speed. Okay, so of course, that is just a review part. So our main concern, let's go back to our main concern, is still to come up with appropriate chart. So we are talking about this simply because, of course, The appropriate chart depends on this, which means if our data is either nominal or ordinal, so I will combine this, it's an or, the appropriate chart for our data is pie chart. We can also use bar chart, and the other one is line chart. So these are the commonly used chart if the variable or the data is either nominal or ordinal. While if our data is either interval or ratio, the appropriate or most common chart used for these variables are the following. So we can use frequency polygon or histogram or frequency histogram. So these are also the common chart used if our data is at least interval or ratio. We can also use a pie chart in special cases, especially if we just have a few numbers involved in the data. Like for example, the numbers or the ages of the students, which is limited only into 15, 16, and 17 years old. So it only contains three numbers. We can still present that using pie chart. But for some, for example, if the age now is from 16 years old to 80 years old, then it contains a lot of ages. So it's actually very difficult now to present it using pie chart, because if you're going to use pie chart, then it may look like a color wheel, and it's already not clear because of a lot of numbers involved in the pie chart. Okay, so let's move on. So for us to uh, determine now, or rather for us to make the appropriate chart for our data, so let us first determine what are the chart that we can use given this our data. So if you still remember, this is the same data that we use for all other activities or for all other topics, such as in constructing frequency table and also in coming up with what do you call this, in our data encoding and all other concerns in data. Okay, so now let us classify our variable. Variable age is ratio. Variable sex, so let's make this larger. Variable sex is, this is already classified. It's nominal. So where do we get this variables? We are actually looking at our first row. Age, sex, socioeconomic status. This is a socioeconomic status classified as poor, average, and rich. So there is a ranking, but we use categories. It is ordinal. And year level, so first year, second year, third year, fourth year. So this is also classified as ordinal. So it's like number 1, 2, 3, 4, but of course we are talking about level. First year level, second year level, third year level, and fourth year level. And the last one is relationship status. So for relationship status, this is in a relationship or not in a relationship. So what is the classification of this variable? Relationship status is also nominal. So it does not mean that if you are in a relationship and the other one is not in a relationship, so you are higher or lower than the other group. Okay, next. So we are done classifying the level of measurement or the scale of measurement of our variables. So we are actually sure now what are the appropriate chart for our data. So it seems that Sex, socioeconomic status, year level, and relationship status are all, of course, categorical variables. It's either nominal or ordinal, so which means that we're going to construct pie chart, bar chart, and line chart. While for age, this is the only numerical valued data. So we are going to construct ratio. So we have here numbers simply because, of course, in analyzing later the data, it really requires us to use numerical or to use codes. This just represent codes, but it does not mean that one is higher than the other if our variable is nominal. So that is for sex. We can actually interchange the value 1, the value that we used last time is 1 for male, 2 for female. We can actually interchange the codes provided. While for year level, so this is ordinal, so it means that it's appropriate for us to give a lower value for year level 1, first year, and higher codes for higher level, and that is for fourth year. Okay, now, if you still remember the process of constructing the frequency distribution table, that is the same process that we're going to follow, except that we have to click something. Okay, so let's start with the age. Again, we need the data analysis. So this is the data analysis part. So we have to go to data analysis. So we will just do the same process in the constructing and then click histogram. So as you can see here, there's only one chart considered, and that is the histogram. And then click OK. Our input range is the age. Or we can actually select everything here, including the label. And do not forget to click labels. And here we have Pareto or sorted histogram, chart output, cumulative percentage. So we're going to check chart output. Oops, we missed to place the bin range. Okay, let's go back. So we have to place the bin range first. So what are the bin range used last time? So for age, so let us go back again to our data. So 18 to, this is 18 to 25. So we use 18 to 19, 20 to 21, 22 to 23, 24 to 25, wherein the instruction is to use the upper limits. Again, this is the lower limits, 18, 20, 22, 24, and the upper limits are 19, 21, 23, and 25. So we're going to use the upper limits. 19, 21, 23, and 25. So let's do the process again. So data analysis, histogram, click OK. So let's go back to our data, and that is the data on age. So I'll select this. So since I selected the value of or rather the first row, I have to check labels because I considered the label. And then next, the bin range. So we have to place it here and to click the bin range. So this one. So let us also get the label and click chart output. So what the process is that we select our data set for us to come up with our input range. And for bin range, this is the preliminary part